All right, so taming creatures is a huge part of Ark Survival Ascended. I mean, that's kind of the whole game, right? You tame dinos to fight for you, gather resources, get around the map faster, and eventually, you're breeding them to make even stronger ones. And if you're anything like me, you start relying on tames pretty early on. Just makes everything so much easier. But I kept coming back to this idea. What if you just didn't? Like, no dinos at all. Either you're someone with full-on zoophobia and you're not going anywhere near those things, or you're just that, fine, I'll do it myself kind of guy. No help, no army, no shortcuts, just you. And the more I thought about it, the more I started wondering, could you actually beat Ark like that? No tames, no flyers, no boss creatures, none of it. Just grinding everything out on your own, trying to survive in a game that is clearly not designed for that. On top of that, I always wanted to try out the new map, The Island Reforged by Necatus. You know, Necatus, the guy who worked on Valguero, created Fjordur, Svartalheim, Astraeos, and somehow also found time to remake the island. Yeah, that guy. So I thought, why not kill two dodos with one arrow and give this solo run a shot on his new map? So that's what I want to find out. Is it actually possible to beat Ark completely solo without ever taming a single creature? So for full transparency, I did use a couple of mods in this challenge. I used the Cyrus Lively HUD mod, Clifton's Backpack mod, the Upgrade Station mod, Marnie mod Hairstyles, and the Vanilla with Sprinkles mod. I also wasn't sure how challenging this run was going to be, so not only did I set the difficulty to easy, I also made sure single player settings was turned on. Alright guys, here goes nothing. Wish me luck. So I started out my adventure by grabbing the basics. You know, stone, thatch, wood, fiber, until I finally had enough to make my first tool. Alright, already got 6 levels. Let's go ahead and make that first tool. Now that I had my pickaxe, I was able to hit by the nearby river rocks to get myself some flint, which allowed me to make my next tool. Alright, hatchet is made. Let's get some spears going. Next, I went on a bit of a gathering spree, a killing spree, and I made a couple of pieces of cloth armor. Oh my gosh, 5 levels. Wow, okay. The killing spree continued, the gathering spree continued, then I decided to make myself a little shack. Alright, I spawned in what, right about here? After completing the starter shack, this happened. 540 damage? I know we're playing on easy mode with single settings on, but that is... wow. Okay. Alright. Alright, what kind of damage do we do with range? Okay, that couldn't have been a headshot, right? Okay, that's more I like it. 495. All right. I quickly realized that having both easy difficulty and single player settings was probably a bit overkill. But although it seemed pretty easy at the start, the big question was, how are the boss fights gonna go? Well, We wouldn't find that out till a lot later. I ended up stumbling across a green drop with a ring around it, and although it had a lot of items in it, one in particular was actually pretty good. Alright, what do you got for me? Whoa, okay, that's a lot. Jesus. Yeah, just take all. I then decided that making a raft to explore the island a little bit better would be our next step. 10 levels? Oh my god. Okay. Before departing, I decided to make a couple of upgrades to the boat, including adding refining forges, a smithy, and a mortar and pestle. I also upgraded to some metal tools before heading out. Alright, first metal tool. And the hatchet. Although the trip did get a little foggy, I certainly wasn't discouraged. I mean, as a professional Ark YouTuber with extensive knowledge of the island, there's no way I'd, hit the map border or something, right? After sailing for a while, I finally made it to Herbivore Island, where I would eventually upgrade all of my tools, weapons, and armor into the metal tier. After finally getting all geared up, it was finally time to go for our first artifact, the artifact of the Hunter. Alright. First artifact, here we go. The first artifact, for the most part, was relatively easy and relatively straightforward. Most of the time, I used the sword to pretty much decimate anything that came near us, and I was lucky enough to be able to use the crossbow at a distance to kill any Arthropleura before they can actually spit on me. Alright, one artifact down, plenty to go. After grabbing the artifact, I decided to grab the loot crates, which didn't really have anything good in them, and clear out the rest of the cave. After leaving the cave, I realized... Alright. Let's see, 31 levels. Oh my gosh. Ah, gotta love Explorer Notes. Now it was time for the artifact of the massive cave, which, if you guys aren't aware, is of course the lava cave. I made sure to make some grapples before jumping into this cave because, as you guys know, usually if you have a creature, the jumps are relatively easy, but since it was me and only me in this series, yeah, I decided to play it safe. Yeah, of course, this cave ended up being pretty straightforward like the last one. Biggest concern with this cave was having to deal with bats, since potentially they could give you rabies, but thankfully that didn't happen to me on this trip. Finally, it was time to take on the artifact at a clever cave, and One thing I quickly realized was that living on a houseboat for this adventure thus far made me realize that there was no good place to park the boat relatively close to the artifact cave. The best I can come up with was parking on the west coast and pretty much just running all the way past the volcano and finally getting to the artifact cave. But in that decent trip across the map, I quickly realized how strong I was compared to bigger threats on the island. I think one thing I started to realize further and further into this challenge was the combination of using the easy difficulty with the single player settings, putting a bunch of levels into melee. I was pretty much dominating every single creature on the island, and it got to the point where, especially going for the third artifact here, I pretty much just started walking into caves nonchalantly and pretty much just swinging the sword around and pretty much just decimating everything. I started to become extremely overconfident in this series, and although this probably was the toughest cave out of all of them, with the amount of creatures in the cave, with obviously dealing with onyx and stuff, yeah, I was virtually unstoppable. Then I decided to do something silly, but in my defense, as I'm doing the voiceover for this after the fact, I still justify my reasons for doing this. So, we're gonna take on the Broodmother. I know, there is absolutely no way we are getting this done the first time, but I need to at least run this test to see if it's even going to be possible to complete this series. And looking over our stats currently, we have 600 into health, we have 250 into stam, 400 into weight, 392 into melee, and 60 into fortitude. And if we at least inflict some kind of damage onto the Broodmother, we at least have a fighting chance, let's put it that way. If we just get one-shotted, I don't know. But without further ado, guys, first attempt at a Broodmother. Keep our fingers crossed. Let's see how this goes. All right, so in order to take on the Broodmother, you need to be level 30, I believe, which is funny. You will also need each of the artifacts, which is the Clever, the Hunter, and the Massive. So let's get into this. Let's see how it goes. All right, here we go. So we're going in with just a sword. Okay, so there's the Broodmother. I'm just going to kind of run up to this thing and just start hacking at it. Okay, so we do 2,000 damage. Okay. Health is pretty bad already. Okay, so we have done a smidgen of damage. Oh, God. All right. All right. Let's get back to the drawing board for a second. All right, so first things first, since we ended up losing our armor, of course, let's go ahead and get that back. Let's see what else. I also need to make a new sword, which I think might still be the way that we go for the boss fights. I don't know. We'll kind of have to play it by ear here, but where is the sword? There's the sword. Okay. Couple things we need to look at, too, are we need some better items, and I think I have a way in doing that. Of course, it's going to be our best friend. Potentially the upgrade station is going to have to be something that we're going to look into. Okay, so if I wanted to upgrade the sword, what would I need to do so? I'm going to need wood, I'm gonna need metal, and I'm gonna need hide. But I guess my question is, should I upgrade the sword or focus on the armor? Maybe we'll do one upgrade just to see how much it's going to... my worry is... It's going to take a lot of metal, isn't it? It is. Wow. Okay. Okay, and that only put us from 100 to 130 with... What was that? 50 metal used? Oh, geez. Yeah, we're going to really have to go on to some metal runs. So the metal run officially began, but unfortunately, we ended up having a hiccup relatively quickly because upon returning to Herbivore Island, none of the metal had respawned. So I had to think outside the box where we could get a ton of metal, and after doing a little bit of research, it turns out that the artifact at a hunter cave actually has a lot of metal. After getting a ton of metal and doing a bunch of upgrades, it was finally time to put our character to the test and see if all this hard work was even going to help us. Is that an alpha raptor? Ooh, okay. Let's see how this goes. Three hits. Granted, it's a level 13, but still. Did we get anything good out of this? No. We got a backup crossbow. No. Not really. After grabbing 2 artifacted massives, I decided to make my way over to the artifacted clever, and... well, this happened along the way. Okay. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Oh, wow. Okay. Hey! All right, got a little bit better there. 128 and 123, not as good, but we'll definitely switch that one out. And... oh, you know what? We got a lot of prime meat here. Do I do this now? No, wait. It's fine. I don't know why this time was any different in the artifact of the Clever Cave, but... yeah, we ran into some trouble in this one. Back to back? Oh my gosh. What's the point of having like 60 fortitude? Oh man. After grabbing 2 more artifacts of the clevers, yeah, you guessed it, guys. Back to metal gathering and back to upgrading. One thing I honestly didn't consider when initially starting this challenge, I knew there was going to be repetition. Of course, I also knew that the upgrade station was going to be potentially my only saving grace for potentially pulling this challenge off, but I also didn't realize the quantities I was going to need, and realizing that although the sword is incredibly powerful. The amount of resources it actually needs is insane, especially when you get higher and higher and higher upgrading. The numbers become astronomical, and I guess I wasn't expecting it to become as grindy and repetitive as it ultimately became. Now, I don't want this to seem all doom and gloom like I regret doing this challenge or something, because there's a lot of things that I've enjoyed so far doing this, especially as someone who's made a lot of art content over the last 6 years. I personally feel that maybe my content has gotten into the same rhythm, if you will, when it comes to the same tames, when it comes to the same structure and everything, and, well, this challenge just takes all that and throws it out the window. I know I'm one who heavily relies on tames, so not having that luxury and having to lug around stuff myself and walk around the island myself and everything, it just gives you a whole new perspective on this game, and it definitely builds an appreciation for what they've put into this game and everything. Next, I realized that I would end up needing to make a Mind Wipe tonic if I really wanted to have the best potential stats and the best potential chance of beating the Broodmother, which meant that, yeah, we were going to need some things that were relatively hard to come by. Honestly, one of the easiest out of the group to get was actually the rare mushrooms, because just heading over to the mangroves in the swamp and just whacking on the trees, long story short, ended up giving me more than enough in the rare mushroom category, which was actually really surprising. Initially, rare flowers was also pretty hard to find, but then I realized beaver dams. Yeah, beaver dams have rare flowers. They actually also have rare mushrooms, which I discovered after the fact, but yeah, I was actually able to get rare flowers relatively quickly using that method. Surprisingly, the toughest ingredients to come by were the stimulants, the narcotics, and the mejoberries, because I needed to handpick berries in order to actually get this done, which surprisingly took a really, really long time. And I don't know if melee affects the berries or anything, but I personally felt like I was getting really bad luck when trying to get narco berries and stim berries especially. But funny enough, I ended up making some crop plots in order to hopefully speed the process up more, which became a whole ordeal because trying to find poop was almost impossible. I actually went back to the swamp to track down a couple of Phiomias in order to get the poop, in order to actually make the crops, and it was an absolute nightmare. But long story short, we ended up getting it done, thankfully. All right, there we go. All right, so let's run a little experiment here. All right, we got a trike. How much damage are we going to do? 1776. Okay, that should be pretty easy to remember. Okay. We got another trike coming in. Let's get that thing de-aggroed. All right, so let's get an idea here of what we can do. All right, so let's get our health up to 1,000. I think fortitude up to 60 still works. Maybe we stick with the 600 health, actually. And what if at this point we put everything into melee? Screw it, let's find out. All right, so melee is 617 now. Health is 600. Stamina's dropped to 100. And 60 fortitude. Okay, so Before we did 1776. Now we're going to do... Oh, that's it? Huh. I was expecting a lot bigger of a number, honestly. Oh, shoot. And yeah, that ended up becoming a pretty big issue because I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but I didn't put any points into weight. Guys, I don't know what I was thinking here. I know I have the Clifton's Backpack mod on, which does give your character weight reduction. I don't know why I thought it would give weight reduction on everything, especially having the 3rd tier backpack, which gives you about a 65% weight reduction, but it's only on harvestable material. So like stone, flint, thatch, metal, wood, fiber, that kind of stuff. Not in things like armor, weapons, arrows, loot that you might find in a treasure chest. Ooh. Yep, I had to walk back all the way to the boat to then walk all the way back to get the 2nd loot chest. So then after that, the routine began again, grabbing metal, doing upgrades, grabbing metal, doing upgrades, and, well, eventually we got to a point that I decided to give it another shot. All right, here we go again, guys. Going to be taking on the Broodmother, and hopefully we'll have a better result than the last time. If you guys recall, last time we went in with all primitive armor along with primitive weapons just to kind of see how we were potentially looking, but now, of course, we have a combination of Mastercraft and Ascendant Flak. We are looking at 3,372 armor, which is a lot better than last time. I think last time was primitive, which would have been 500 armor. Stats-wise, we're looking at 600 health, which is the same as last time. We've taken all of our points out of stamina, and instead, we have a total of 69 levels into melee, putting us at 617. We do have a total of 60 fortitude, just like last time, just to hopefully prevent getting knocked out from the spider torpor and everything. On top of that, we also have a Mastercraft sword, and we also have a pump-action shotgun that we ended up getting in one of those treasure chests, which I don't think it's really going to do a lot of damage. I think the sword is going to be our best way of taking this on, but I don't know. Maybe if we run out of stam, it probably makes sense to at least have some form of backup, right? But it's taken a lot of work to get here, guys. I'm a little nervous about this fight. We do have a couple of different stews and stuff that we've gotten along the way here. We do have Battle Tartar, which I know drops our health, but it gives us a crazy melee boost. So I'm really hoping combined with the Enduro Stew, not sure if that's exactly something that can work, but we'll see what happens. That should give us a decent melee buff. I'm really hoping this works because I'm kind of banking on this to work in order to have a chance in this fight. On top of that, we did get a Shadow Steak Saute at some point, so I'm just going to have that for the heck of it. But here we go, guys. Really nervous for this one. Not exactly sure how this is going to turn out, and we're going to lose a lot of progress if this ends up going. I'm going to be honest, if this doesn't work out, we're still going to figure it out, but I am going to have to cheese the system a little bit in order to figure out if you can actually do this by yourself. But before we start worrying about that, let's see how it goes, guys. Here we go. Okay. By the way, I've already had an Enduro Stew just in order to get over here because it does increase your stamina. So we do have a total of 227 seconds left with that. But without further ado, guys, should I take the Battle Tartar and stuff now or should I wait? Let's just wait. Let's go for it. Here we go, guys. Here we go. All right, we're in the fight. Screw it. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. I can take that too. Okay, they do cancel each other out. Interesting. Okay, so I guess we're just gonna do this one. Okay, oh my gosh, 15,000. And we are pretty much on the verge of death already. No! Okay, we are doing a lot of damage. Oh my god, we might kill it. Go, 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 go. No! Wow, okay, so we did do a lot of damage there. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so guys, could you do this fight legitimately? Could you potentially take on the Broodmother, the Megapithecus, and the dragon all by yourself without dinos or anything? Just doing this completely and utterly solo? Yeah, I think you probably could, honestly, but the amount of resources that you would need to actually pull this off, the fact that we got pretty close is actually really surprising. I do think the Battle Tartar was a bit of a mistake, though, because it did just drop our health down like crazy, but we got potentially really close to killing Gamma Broodmother, so what if potentially we did upgrade our stuff a little bit more? Okay, well, that's fine. Okay. Gotta love Ark sometimes. So now that my run in this challenge is officially done, guys, I wanted to see if potentially you did decide to continue to upgrade your stuff and you ended up getting some really good loot and everything. Is it actually possible to literally beat this game on your own? With that being said, guys, what if you ended up having a setup like this with 6,000 armor, you have a 741 damage sword, along with having Battle Tartar, Beer, Enduro Stew, and Focal Chili? Would it now be possible? Because in my studies and in my little testing, I think I might have figured out a way that you don't actually lose your health using Battle Tartar. So let's try it in this fight and let's see how this goes. All right. So, artifact, artifact, artifact. I am going to take the Beer, the Enduro Stew, and the Focal Chili first, and then I'm going to take the Battle Tartar, and hopefully this works. But with that being said, guys, let's jump into it. And yeah, we're going to have a little fun with this because, I don't know, I'm actually genuinely curious. Could you actually defeat the Broodmother just on your own, you know? All right, so now that we're in the fight, let's take that, let's take that, let's take that. And then let's take that. So yes, you can. 57,000. And look at our health. Our health isn't dropping that much. So technically, I guess you can do it, but like, look at the setup though, honestly. The fact that we literally have, this is 41 armor rating, this is 32, this is 49, 46, and 30, which I don't think you can legitimately get these numbers. I think you can only get these from a loot drop. I think the best you can honestly get on your own through upgrading is an armor rating of 30, if I'm not mistaken. But using the combination of literally everything, I mean, you get a crazy amount of buffs here. Oh my gosh. This was fun, guys. Honestly, this was a lot of fun. I think, again, you would have to... I'll wait till we're actually outside here. We should be outside in a second. Oh, we got 25 seconds. Okay, well, I guess I'll kind of continue my little talk. Apologies for the blurry screen, guys. Of course, that is because of the consumption of the beer. I think you could potentially do this run. We are playing on easy mode, basically. We're easy mode with single-player settings. I'll be honest, I don't think with that being inputted, there we go. I don't think it actually affects the boss creatures, which actually makes this even tougher of a run, honestly. Obviously, fighting stuff in the overworld is extremely easy, especially once you do your first upgrades on your sword and everything, but the numbers and the amount of metal needed for upgrading, guys, started to get absolutely crazy. So, do I think legitimately you can do this run? Yes. It would take a heck of a lot of work to do, even with the easy mode and the single player settings combined. The fact that you're not using any dinos to get yourself more of a metal output or anything. I think you could. You definitely lose your mind over it. On top of that, one of the biggest struggles I had in this series was picking berries. The amount of time it took to make that mind wipe tonic, which did end up being a massive mistake, especially when trying to travel and everything. If I were to do this challenge again, I wouldn't have used the mind wipe tonic when I did, if I'm gonna be honest. On top of that too, you'd have to use a lot of mind wipe tonics, because keep in mind, guys, we literally just defeated the Brood Mother illegitimately, but let's just say you did pull it off legitimately. Now you're gonna have to do a mind wipe tonic again for the artifacts in the ocean, because you're gonna need to put a ton into oxygen, which I guess the biggest question is, because I personally don't know the answer to this, and I'm not gonna look it up right now as I'm recording this bit of a realization conclusion to the series, but if you pump levels in oxygen, does that increase your movement speed or swimming speed in the water? Because if it doesn't, then that's going to be an issue even with scuba, because of eels, jellyfish, all that kind of stuff. And without having movement speed unlocked by default, yeah, you're going to run into a bit of a problem in the ocean, I would imagine. But maybe there is a loophole that I'm not thinking of. Maybe there is a way that you can do this. I just don't have the willpower to continue, guys. If you're curious, this is a total of 27 hours already invested in this series, and could you play Ark this way? Yes. I don't recommend it. Take it from this video, guys. Don't play Ark this way. Get your tames and have a blast. But guys, nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did. This was definitely eye-opening for me. I walked into the series assuming this was going to be a bit of a cakewalk, a little bit of a quicker video to welcome you guys back to the S2F Gaming channel, but clearly, oof, this was a rough one. But I enjoyed it nevertheless. I do want to mention too that this, of course, mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is the Island Reforged made by Necatus, and I will say, I like this version better than the original island. If I was to come back on the island, I probably would actually use this map as opposed to the original wildcard map. Just a lot of things I liked about it. It made you really see and understand the amount of that sandstone look that wildcard uses. You really do see the variety and the different rocks and everything, and it does make a big difference to the aesthetic of this. On top of that, the fact that I haven't seen any fog has been absolutely awesome, or rather, I've seen minimal fog, but it's been in places that I've definitely liked to see it. I will mention the one thing I would like to see fixed, although I don't think it's possible, is I'm not a fan of the water being completely clear, but that's not that big of a deal. I know the sky and the water are kind of hand in hand, so if you disturb the one, you're disturbing the other. It's not that big of a deal. As we see in the distance, the volcano going off, absolutely nice touch to have to this map. Really wish that Wildcard did that legitimately, but I gotta say, guys, if you haven't checked out this version of the map yet, it's called the Island Reforged. It is free. Take a look at it, especially console players. Take a look at it. You'll really, really enjoy it. I guess one more mention is I didn't mind it, but some people may mind it. Caves were a little bit bright, not too excessively bright, but if you prefer your caves to be kind of dark and gloomy where you're going to need a torch, you might not get that on this map, especially if you're playing on console, but not a big deal to me, honestly. I thoroughly enjoyed this adventure, and honestly, take a look at that. I mean, that just looks so cool, and it's crazy how we're pretty far from the volcano, and yet you can see it from this distance. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Probably in my spare time, I will take a look at the original island again, just to kind of compare and contrast. But like I said earlier, if we were making an appearance back on the island, I think it's going to be this version of the island that we're going to explore. But guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully the conclusion didn't run too long. You guys know I tend to be a little wordy and chatty Cathy in these situations, but that is going to wrap up this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it nevertheless. If you guys do take on this challenge, I wish you luck. Just don't. That's going to wrap this one up, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one.